Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ro. Let's talk movies. So it's still spooky season and we're going to count down the worst to best M. Night Shyamalan movies. You know what? I never can say his name properly. I've tried, I've listened to other people say his name, and for some reason it always comes out differently when I say it. It could be the Australian accent. Let's just say that's what it is. So I have seen all of M. Night Shyamalan's movies now because I just watched Old recently, and I decided that it would be the perfect time to do this video because it's spooky season and all his films are thriller slash horror slash suspense kind of movies, and I just thought that this would be perfect. So in this video I want to only discuss the thriller horror films, so we are going to leave out Stuart Little because yes, M. Night Shyamalan's written this. I'm not going to call him by his name anymore because I just feel really awkward. Let's just call him M. Night because yeah, I can't say his surname to save my life. So this is going to be a countdown of all his movies that he has directed, produced and written. Let's start off with my least favorite, The Happening. Now, I know that some people might put other movies down the bottom. For me, The Happening just wasn't it. I didn't feel anything watching this movie. I've seen it one time and that was not something that I was interested in revisiting. Mark Wahlberg is usually a fantastic actor in my opinion, but in this movie, he was not good. He was really bad. And I don't know if it was just the directing of the film or if it just wasn't his role, but definitely did not like his character in this. I didn't even really like Zooey Deschanel. I'm guessing that you guys have all seen M. Night's movies that I'm going to be discussing in this video, which is why you're watching it. But if you haven't, I promise that I won't do any spoilers just in case. So The Happening is a psychological thriller about a virus that is making people commit suicide, mass suicide. It has a very good premise and I like the story that M. Night was trying to convey, but I just didn't feel like the movie really did anything for me. I believe it's an airborne virus. Don't quote me on that because like I said, I haven't seen it in the longest time. But it's just not something that I want to rewatch anyways. Please take this list with a grain of salt because these last two movies on the worst side of the list are movies that I have no interest in revisiting, and so I may be a little bit off with my explanations about them, but I just remember not enjoying them and that is why they're at the bottom. The next one on the list is Lady in the Water. I wouldn't say that this is the worst film ever. I wouldn't say that I hate this movie. Because this list is worst to best, I want to make it clear that worst doesn't mean horrible movies. It just means they're my least favorite. Everyone has different opinions, but it's a very slow movie and it's not that thrilling or suspenseful. This is a story about a superintendent of a building who finds a woman in the swimming pool. And she's, I don't know, some sort of nymph, mermaid, I don't know. Anyways, that's literally the baseline story. And I believe that some creature or something is after her. And yeah. Number 9 is The Village. This is a movie that I feel some people really love and some people really didn't like. I think that it just depends on what you expected when you went into this. When it starts to unravel and you find out what's actually going on in this village, it drops the ball for me. I feel like it was so tense and fun and interesting to find out what's going on, but then when you find out what's really happening, it kind of made me bored. So the basic premise of this movie is that the people that live in this village are afraid of these creatures that are outside of the village and they don't go beyond their community because of the fear that they have of these creatures and what they can do to them. And that's basically it. Very interesting premise. If you're expecting something going in though and you get something different, sometimes it throws you off a little bit, and that's what happened to me. I was expecting a very like supernatural kind of thing going on, and it's not what I got. So that is all I'm going to say without having to give you guys any spoilers. It's just not one of my favorites, but in saying that, I feel like I should probably rewatch it because I've only seen it once, and that was when it came out and I went to the movies to watch it. And again, I went to watch it with a certain expectation of what I was going to be seeing, and I didn't get that. But now that I know what it's about, I feel like maybe I should give it another go. It might actually be better than I thought it was. Number 8 is The Visit. I know a lot of people actually dislike this movie, but I didn't hate it. So I'm gonna say from here on up in the list, I enjoy these movies. The Visit is something that I want to rewatch. I thought that this was very creepy and very well done. There were a lot of scenes in this movie that scared the crap out of me. So it's definitely something that I do want to rewatch. I just know that I did enjoy it, which is why it is in this place. So this movie is about a single mother who is estranged from her parents. She hasn't seen or spoken to her parents for 15 years, and her parents find out that they have grandchildren and they want to meet them, so they contact her and ask if they could have the children for the week. And this gives the opportunity for the single mother to go on a cruise with her boyfriend, and she drops off the kids at her parents' house to take care of them, and creepy stuff happens. I think that it has a lot of good scares. I do believe it has a lot of jump scares, which some people might not like. There's certain scenes that I still remember, that are still cemented in my brain. I know some people don't like this movie. I know some people have issues with M. Night's movies because too many times he uses mental illness to explain why certain characters are a little unhinged. It was pretty decent. I enjoyed it. The kid actors are great, and yeah, I don't really remember so much, so it would be kind of interesting to delve back into this one. At number 7, I have Old. Old is the newest M. Night film that has been released. This movie is about a bunch of people who go to this island and they start to age rapidly. This movie was very different, very interesting. Really loved the concept. There were some things I had issues with, like the acting. Some of the acting wasn't very good, even though it has good actors in it. I don't know, it could be the script. I'm not too sure. It also could be the pacing. Very slow at the beginning, takes its time to get to the point, but once it does, it goes way too quickly. And I think that that might be the problem with the acting, that the reactions that the actors have to certain things that happen don't feel realistic to me. They don't feel like that's how I would react in those situations. But I also think it's because of the pacing, because it just jumps too quickly through things for you to kind of get any kind of good reaction from the actors. So that could be the issue. But all in all, I did enjoy this movie. I don't think it is one of my favorites or one of M. Night's best movies, but I placed it here in the middle of the list because I do have like a very middle rating for it, and I feel like I just don't know whether I liked it. I'm not too certain how I feel completely about this one. At 6, I have Glass. I really liked this movie a lot. So if you're not familiar with M. Night's Unbreakable trilogy, this is part of the trilogy. Glass is the 3rd movie, so it's Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. If you haven't seen the other 2 movies, I kind of don't want to spoil them by explaining too much about this 3rd movie, but it does star Samuel L. Jackson, who's in Unbreakable, Bruce Willis, who's in Unbreakable, and James McAvoy, who's in Split. So all of those actors are in this one movie. Brilliant story. I love it. I love the superhero villain elements to all these movies. What I really loved about it is that it's very different to everything else that's on this list that M. Night's done. The superhero feel is kind of cool to me. It reminds me of X-Men, but a little darker and a little bit more about the characters than their powers. So I just really enjoy the psychological element of these three movies. So I've put Glass here because it is my least favorite of the trilogy, but I still think that it's a very good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that all the actors are fantastic in this. I think the very end of this movie kind of disappointed me. I expected something else to happen and I was a little bit bummed out, but all in all, I still enjoy this movie, and yeah, I still think it's a very good movie. If you haven't seen it, but you've seen Unbreakable and Split, you definitely need to check out Glass. So now we're down to the top 5. I'm going to say these 5 are his best. So at number 5, I have the movie Devil. This is the only movie on the list that he did not direct, but he did write and produce this movie, and it does feel like an M. Night film. This movie is about a bunch of strangers who find themselves stuck in an elevator, and one of them is the devil. It sounds a little strange, but it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so it makes sense. This film is really tense, it's really interesting. I think what makes this movie so good to me is the acting. The performances are so good, especially Logan Marshall Green. The concept is very original and cool. It had kind of a book feel to it, like it felt like it was a book made into a movie. It's not, but it just had that feeling while I was watching it, and I just really enjoyed the story. Not a lot of people discuss this movie, probably because he didn't direct it, but not a lot of people discuss how great this film is, even on its own without M. Night attached to the project. I just think this is a really good movie if you're into thrillers with a little bit of a scary element. This, like I said, does have an M. Night feel. Please give it a go. You will not regret it. Let me know down below if you have seen it, because yeah, it's just very underrated in my opinion. At number 4, I have Signs, starring Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix. This movie is just a lot of fun. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I've seen it multiple times and I really enjoy this one. This movie is about a man who used to be a priest, but he has since turned his back on his faith because his wife was killed in a car accident, and he hasn't quite been able to forgive God or himself for what has happened to his wife. He's living in a farm with his children and his brother, and he discovers crop circles in his cornfield. I really enjoy this movie. I like all the little details that are in this that kind of build up towards the very end. I was kind of tossing up between this and the third place because I do think that this is one of M. Night's best films, and it was really hard for me to rank this 4th because I don't know, I feel like I'm tossing up between 4 and 3. So by saying that, I have Split at number 3. Split has more of a horror element to it, and I just really love this film. I love all the actors in this. Might be why I've put it a little bit higher. The performances in this are just incredible, especially from James McAvoy. He is so good in this. His acting is next level, just amazing. Split is about a man who has multiple personalities. I believe it's 23 personalities, and he kidnaps a couple of girls, and I don't want to go into any more detail because things take a turn. This movie is not what you expect. I love the twists in this so much, and the fact that you never know which personality you're going to get from James McAvoy's character is just even more scary and tense. Just really well done, smart concept, great film. One of my favorite movies. I feel like watching it again. It's been a while since I've watched it. I might do a marathon and watch all 3 of the trilogy, and the ending takes a turn. When this came out, obviously nobody really knew this was a sequel. And I don't think you were supposed to until the very, very, very end, because the ending twist is a strange one, to say the least. But when you find out that this also connects to Unbreakable, you kind of get it. You're like, okay, this is the same universe. It makes sense that this weird stuff's happening because it happened in Unbreakable. Let's just leave it at that. And speaking of, at number 2, I have Unbreakable. This movie stars Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. Fantastic movie. I think that this is an underrated one. I know people know it, but not a lot of people give it the praise that it deserves, because I just believe that this movie is so incredibly well made. The pace is great. The character development is amazing. Bruce Willis is so good in this. Samuel L. Jackson is so good in this. Just everything about this, the family aspect, the relationship between Bruce Willis and his son and his wife, just everything that's going on. It's such a character building film, and I don't know, just so much is going on in this movie, but it's done so well and explained so well that I just love so many elements about this movie. If you guys have watched a couple of my other videos, you guys will know that I love superhero stories. So the fact that this is a superhero story in a thriller, horror sort of setting makes it even more exciting for me. I recently read the books Vicious and Vengeful from V.E. Schwab, and I should have kind of picked up that this very similar eerie feel happens in this movie as well as those books. I don't know why I didn't put 2 and 2 together. So this is the story about David, who gets into a train accident and comes out unscathed. He starts to discover that he has powers. He comes across this man called Elijah, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who is in a wheelchair because he has brittle bones and he breaks very easily, and people call him Mr. Glass, hence the 3rd movie called Glass. Samuel L. Jackson's character Elijah wants to test the abilities that Bruce Willis has, and they start to discover things together. That is all I'm going to say, but this movie is excellent. Not only do I think that this is one of M. Night Shyamalan's best movies, but this is one of the best superhero movies, and it has really creepy and intense scenes. So it does feel a little bit like a horror, but it doesn't completely go that way. So I still think it is a thriller compared to Split, which I think Split is more horror. It goes into that realm. And of course, as you guys can tell, at number 1 is The Sixth Sense. This is probably M. Night's most famous movie. Such a great story. It stars Bruce Willis again. Fantastic in this. As always, I think he's just such a great actor. Haley Joel Osment is great, and Toni Collette. I mean, I believe this is Toni Collette's first American movie, but her performance in this is so good. That scene with Haley Joel Osment and her in the car is just one of the most beautiful, heartbreaking, intense, stunning scenes I've ever seen in a movie. I just think it's so good, and I just love this movie. It's a slow burn. It's very slow paced. It's a character story. I think most of M. Night's movies are more character based than the thrill or the horror aspects in them. The basic premise of The Sixth Sense is about a young boy who can talk to the dead and a psychologist played by Bruce Willis who wants to help him. It has very scary scenes. I still remember the little girl under the bed and the tent scene. I still think that this movie is very effective and it holds up, and I believe it is M. Night's best movie. So that's it for my countdown from least favorite to most favorite of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. Please let me know down below what your list is. I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.